good afternoon to everybody that's joining us all around the world. And welcome to this new episode of Beyond Profit podcast created by Symbiosis Infinity Group. I'm your humble host, Jean-Christian Andoni, CEO, founder of SIG. Just to keep you a little bit in the loop for people that don't know us, we are a conscious business growth advisory company, and we help company grow their profit with purpose through ethical growth by designing and implementing circularity within their supply chain so that they can have an impact on people and planet while at the same time growing their profit. Today is an exciting day and an exciting episode because we're going to talk about impact. Impact that is such an important part of the conscious business growth journey. And we have Kat here with us, who's a CEO of Synapse Analytics and also a fellow member of the SIG team. And she's going to introduce herself more thoroughly. We have our colleague and friend Raul, who's having some connection issues because he's in Benin, and I guess he has some connectivity issues, but he will pop in and out. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to drop your LinkedIn to have some comments, ask your questions. We will be happy to answer those along the way. Tell us where you're joining us from, why you join us, connect with us on LinkedIn so that we can take this conversation after the show and stay connected to see how we can create a better world and an upgrade for the conscious business growth journey. Kat, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our 5th episode, and please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Jean-Christian. I'm excited to be on this podcast and really excited to dive into this discussion around impact. I am Kat Niewiadomska. I am the CEO of Synapse Analytics, as Jean-Christian mentioned, and I'm also an executive coach and leadership development consultant in the conscious business space. And just for context, my background is very heavily in science and engineering. And as I transitioned into the people space and I started working in executive coaching and people development, I realized that there was so much of this work that was creating value, and it was very hard to measure. And so I had to go back and reconnect with my science and engineering background to begin to bring in more impact measurement, both in the leadership space and then overall in the business space, because I realized that if you can't measure anything, then you don't know how to fix it, you don't know how to improve it. So I'm truly passionate about the impact measurement piece of developing organizations and living a conscious and purposeful life.
Fantastic. I think that's a great introduction. And yeah, passion is at the center of everything we do, right? Being conscious entrepreneurs, we have really a mindset that's aimed towards having a positive impact. Of course, never forget to generate some profit as well along the way, but our main intention is really to create a difference in the world. So, let us start. Please don't forget to add some comments, tell us where you're from, and we will be happy to connect with you. So our first question, Kat, is, impact is such a broad word. We can, impact is used for different topics, for different circumstances. So how do you personally define impact, and why is it so important for organization to measure it?
Good question. For me, impact is the tangible evidence that our purpose is alive in an organization. And it's really that positive and lasting change that happens when you bring your strategy and you align it with your culture and you align it with the results that your organization is creating, when they're all aligned in the same direction. That for me is impact. As I mentioned in my introduction, you can't truly understand or improve anything if you're not measuring it. So if you're trying to be a healthier person and you have all of these activities and you're running and you're eating well, but you're not able to measure anything, you don't really know how you're improving your health. And it becomes very easy to confuse effort with effectiveness. And so it's the same thing applies for organizations. Measuring impact reveals whether our actions are actually creating the change that we're looking to create or not. And it gives us information. It creates this set of evidence to help organizations make smarter decisions and more values aligned decisions, and it provides a basis for future strategy.
Great, thank you. It looks like we're having some technical issues with LinkedIn. It's not broadcasted on LinkedIn right now, but okay, we're going to keep going and we'll post the replay. Everything is available on YouTube. Yeah, it looks like there is an issue with LinkedIn through StreamYard. Okay, well, let's continue. And in any case, if you missed it because of the technical issue, we apologize for that. This is out of our hands. We will post, of course, the replay, and you'll be watching this replay. So thank you for this, this important, I would say, statement, because it is important to measure the impact of your actions, whether it's in your personal life and also in your professional life. So another question that's very relevant, I think, for us and for everybody is, what do you see as the main difference between outputs, outcomes, and impact? And why does this distinction matter?
I think outputs are what you do, and outcomes are what changes because of what you do, and impact is what is the lasting change and why it matters. So in the example of fitness, of being more health conscious, outputs could be your workouts, for example, the repetitions you do, the miles you run, the hours you put in. Your outcomes are the results you begin to see. You have more energy, maybe you have better sleep. And then the impact is the long-term transformation. You are actually healthier. You might be more confident over time. This distinction matters because, again, like I said earlier, activity is not the same as effectiveness. Organizations will often stop counting at the outputs, what they're doing, and then what changes just because of what they're doing, but not what is it that's lasting. And so if we really want to create meaningful and sustainable change, we need to begin to measure the impact. And that's why this distinction matters. Just the repetitions is not enough. Yeah, we have to go towards lasting change. This is really the core of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think you're right when it comes to long-term perspective and lasting change. And this is why it's so important to, remeasure your impact along the way according to where you are and where you want to go. And this is the point also of taking organizations and people as well towards a conscious business growth journey, is that the journey changes, people change, situations change, the world is changing so fast that you constantly need to readjust and remeasure your impact in order to be able to adjust the matrix towards your goals and reassess, I would say, every 6 months or every year, so that we can truly measure the impact and truly have the impact that we want to have on certain stakeholders within the ecosystem of organization. It has been, I would say, like maybe 10, 15, or like, let's say 20 years ago, impact was not such a big topic on the table of companies. Impact measurement at least. So, but now it's all about, being able to measure what you're doing, being able to assess, being able to readjust, as we said. So why do you think that is? And why do you think that, impact measurement has become such a hot topic for organization? And how is it reshaping the business strategy of organizations globally?
I think the world needs more proof. They're tired of empty promises. All of the stakeholders, from employees to customers to investors, they want to see that purpose isn't just like a tagline. It's actually a measurable driver of performance. Impact measurement is reshaping strategy by linking values to value creation. It's not, people don't want to hear that these are our values and they're so lofty and they're so great. We want to actually know, so what? What is the value you're creating through these values? I think it's pushing organizations to design better systems where doing good and doing well are the same thing, right? You mentioned profit is just as important, but it's not the only important thing. We really need to bridge these two together. And I think aligning purpose and people and profit into a single measurable story is why impact has become so important right now.
Absolutely. Well, this is well said. Bridging profit and purpose is the key to a sustainable success, and we've seen it over and over again with companies like Patagonia, like Whole Foods, that have been pioneers in the conscious business growth, which is also called conscious capitalism. For some people that don't know what conscious business growth is, and these brands and these companies have not only had a tremendous impact within their environment and different stakeholders, but they also created a lot of shared value for themselves, for their stakeholders, for their shareholders, and for their company's long-term growth. So it's really a win-win-win when you bridge purpose and profit. Of course, it's not easy to do. You need professional people like ourselves to be able to really not only strategize it, implement it, and of course, measure it at the end. We move to a different section of this podcast where we're going to explore what it takes to really build a solid framework to create impact measurement. So, along your years of experience in this field, what do you think are the key elements for a strong impact measurement framework that leaders should put in place right from the start?
I love it. It's a great question. I think the absolute first, like the cornerstone of any kind of impact measurement framework, has to be a clarity of purpose. What exactly are you trying to change or create, and for who are you trying to make this change? Like, really have that clear. That's the first step. The second step is that clarity of purpose has to be linked to both the people that are being impacted and the strategy that you are looking to follow. So you need to link metrics to culture, to behavior, to business goals, and to the data that is telling a cohesive story. Like, we have to have this systems thinking approach to impact measurement. And then be consistent. You mentioned, you have to keep measuring every 6 months. You have to go back, and this, we're creating a feedback loop. So we have to be measuring regularly. We have to be continuously open to learning about what we are doing well and where there is room for improvement, and adjusting that so we grow. It's not just a one-time report.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, continuously, putting things back in perspective, and in order to really sustain the growth and the impact. Raul keeps popping in and out. I know he has some connection issues. We're trying our best to solve it. We apologize again. It seems like LinkedIn has some problems. So for all the people that wanted to join live, you'll have the replay. We'll send that on our feed through our YouTube channel, and you can catch up on that. This is out of our hands, unfortunately. So yes, so building a solid framework is, of course, very important right from the start when we want to create the roadmap of impact and how we want to measure it. Now there are so many indicators, and when we look at an organization, especially big organization or even medium-sized organization, when we think about impact, it's very easy to actually get lost in the multitude of stakeholders that we want to have an impact on and improve within this conscious business growth journey. So, how can companies identify the most relevant indicators, those that really reflect, I would say, the true influence on not only people but also planet?
Great question. Yeah, when it comes to measurement or data, more is not necessarily better. The most meaningful indicators live at the intersection of purpose, the stakeholder experience, and the business outcomes we're looking to measure. So I think the most important way to measure material indicators is by starting to listen before we measure anything. Just like any good coach, just like any good consultant, it starts with asking the right questions. So what matters most to the people we're looking to affect? That's the first thing. And then what signals are giving us indicators of real progress towards our mission? So if we take a fashion-focused brand, a fashion brand that's focused on recycling, counting how many clothes that they collect is an output, right? We're going back to your question earlier.
Yeah.
Measuring how much fabric gets reused is an outcome. But then the impact shows up when we really see that landfill waste is decreasing, or that production emission is dropping, or that customers are beginning to buy less but better quality, and shifting their habits more towards a sustainable culture. Those are kind of meaningful indicators. So that's really when the data reflects something that's real, not just showing like how good our activity is and making us feel good and posting good things on a marketing brochure.
Yeah. You're absolutely right on that. And I'm glad that you're touching on the point of sustainable and circular fashion, because this is something that we've been working on very closely with our friends and colleagues at We Disrupt agency and Churching Young. A big shout out to her today, because she's doing an amazing job, and she's a very committed person when it comes to creating circularity in the textile industry. And yeah, we are constantly, every time we have internal meetings, we're constantly re-brainstorming about how can we create more impact in those communities? How can we turn this pre-consumer waste and this post-consumer waste, especially, to really create and design and implement circular chains that really enable people and the planet to get uplifted through what we design for businesses. And it's a constant, I would say, it's always putting things back into perspective and reevaluating, what about this stakeholder? How can we impact more of this stakeholder? How can we, uplift the planet while creating more value-added opportunities for, communities that live around landfills, for example. And here we're also cooperating with our good friend in Chile, Christian, who has been very active in solving this situation. So it's very important that we have this matrix in place. Otherwise, it's like being the captain of a ship and not having a destination and putting the sails on and just hoping we're going to get somewhere. Obviously, you're going to get somewhere, but you don't know where. So it's kind of a pointless journey. And through the work that we do together, Kat, and through your input within SIG, we're very happy to have you on board, because this really gives us the direction of where we need to put our actions, where we need to put our efforts, how we can interact with the different stakeholders in order to really understand them and really create the value that is needed for them. And this is why our work matters, and why it's so people and planet centered. There's a lot of companies that are joining the conscious business growth journey, or the conscious capitalism journey. A lot of new B Corps and a lot of new movement taking place. So if you have like a tip for organization that are just starting this journey but don't know how to navigate the impact measurement trip that they need to take, what would be the first practical step for them to take in order to really be feral and have a solid framework and structure to be able to continue that on the long term?
Yeah, great question. I think starting by being very systematic and writing down a clear theory of change. It's a simple map of how your actions will lead to the outcomes that you're looking to get. That would be the first really concrete step. Like, not jumping straight to data we would like to measure or data that's easy to measure, but just begin by defining what good looks like to your people, to your community, to your mission, and then begin by minimizing the number of points you can measure that actually indicate this. Once that's clear, measurement becomes more of an accountability thing rather than a box to check. But it takes some time to sit down and really consider, how is what we're doing impacting our stakeholders and our communities? And then we see what we can measure after that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you touched on a very, I think, good point that I would like you to expand if possible. And I think this was, one of the discussions we had when we met each other and we started discussing our cooperation, is the theory of change. And I was immediately, just the word theory of change was just a fascinating, topic for me, that I went dig into it a lot more and found out that there is a whole science behind change. It's not only just a meaningful words and a meaningful, I would say, transformation that organization and people can have, but there's a whole science behind that. So can you just expand for our audience that don't know anything about this theory of change? Can you just explain in a few like 1 or 2 minutes, what does that entitle, what it is, and how it affects people and organization to the point where there is an upgrade and transformation taking place?
Yeah, the simplest way to explain it is that the theory of change looks at, okay, if we have certain inputs and these inputs are leading to certain actions, we are making certain actions and activities, they are going to impact a certain number of people. This impact is, when I say impact, they're going to affect a certain number of people over time. And then when they affect these people over time, that creates outputs. Some things change, and then over time, as that happens, that change has a ripple effect in with the stakeholders, and that includes employees of the company, it includes the customers, it includes the potentially the investors, the leadership of the organization, but then also the greater community. And that ripple effect is the change. And so the theory of change is really looking at that whole value chain of that company existing, and what is the ripple effect it's creating in the community that it's operating in.
That's great. I love the principle of ripple effect, because we see that a tiny action in one part of the world, in one small community, can really trigger a chain of events around this community, or in this particular country, or in this sector, that can lead to massive change everywhere. And sometimes we overthink our actions and I would say our plans, saying, "Oh, we need to dream big." Of course, we need to dream big, or we need to have like big, bold, worldwide action. But in another way, also sometimes having a very focused and targeted impact goal towards a particular community and a particular sector can really have this ripple effect that can reach worldwide. And this is why we also advise companies and organizations to do is, of course, you need to think big and you need to dream big in terms of upgrading the world as it is now. But it all starts with really focused, targeted actions that can really change the lives of people and communities, also improving the environment. And this is also kind of a learning curve that allows you to plan bigger the next time and be able to really have this ripple effect worldwide. So that's a very important point. So thank you for also enlightening our audience and me at the same time around this theory of change. Now, there is one thing that we are, and one particular concept or idea that we're very keen on at Symbiosis Infinity Group, is how we jump from theory to practice. Of course, there is a lot of discussion, a lot of conferences, a lot of roundtables, white papers around sustainability, around ESG, and these are all great because these put things back, put things in perspective, and it gives a lot of different ideas. But these ideas need to be implemented in a practical way. And historically, many organizations have been focusing on what we call KPIs, which is the key performance indicators. But as conscious business growth advisors, we also focus on key purpose indicators. So, how do you see the relationship between performance and purpose, and how can we measure both effectively? Because ideally, both are very important.
Yeah, performance is very much about efficiency, right? And purpose is something else. Purpose is more about why. And I think when we can measure both, we're connecting efficiency with meaning, right? Purpose is meaning. Purpose drives us. It gives intrinsic motivation to why we do what we do. It's very much of a internally driven or meaning-driven effort. So purpose will show how well we're doing, but performance will show how well we're doing, but purpose shows why it matters. And so if KPIs are telling us that how well the engine is running, purpose indicators or key purpose indicators are telling us if it's taking us somewhere worthwhile or not, or if we're just driving around in circles, right? We can have high performance and go nowhere, and we can have high performance with meaning, and that's taking us somewhere important. So I think that's how performance becomes really purposeful, when we change our definition of success. And instead of just defining success as performance or profit, we define success also by the difference that we are making in the world and for people.
Great, and that's absolutely right. And this is, measuring success as a matrix can mean very much different things for different people and different organizations. And the measure of success, I think, as traditional capitalism, I would call it, from the 70s and 80s, was always to increase shareholder value at all costs. Shareholders needed to see a return on their investment with quarterly results, with a lot of pressure on margins, and it was performance at all costs. But in the 80s and 90s, with the rise of, I would say, human consciousness, and seeing that the traditional capitalism, as Milton Friedman, put it in theory, was running out of steam. And we had a lot of leaders, and we've been having a lot of leaders and companies that said, but look at what we're building. Is it really sustainable? How are we making a difference in the world? And how would our company, improve or behave if we would take care of our stakeholders instead of just our shareholders? And we soon realized that taking care of your stakeholders, that means employees, that means suppliers, that means customers, that it means environment, that means communities, and so on. Then the company's performance was actually doing much better, 6 to 7 times better financial results, of course, on a little bit longer scale. But data shows that actually companies do better when they bridge their purpose and their profit. And this is what it's all about. Impact measurement is a key element in order to achieve success within the conscious business growth journey. And of course, it's all about data collection, right? But sometimes we tend to, I would say, put the human story aside and just look at the numbers. And this is where the balance is very thin, right? So how can data collection and new technology, especially AI, simplify this impact measurement, but without losing the human story behind the numbers that are collected and projected?
I love that question, and it relates very much to the previous one. It really has to start with changing our definition of success. And what happens is we are very purposeful leaders, maybe, and then we bring in purely data-focused analysts who are just looking at the data, and that's where we can lose sight of the human story. I think making sure that all of the people working in an organization and working with us have to understand that our definition of success is people plus profits, purpose plus profit, right? That has to be the first step. But then we have to remember that data it's a tool. We use it to illuminate, to highlight the human story, not to replace the human story. Technology streamlines collection, and we can automate surveys, and we can visualize trends. We can connect metrics across teams to outcomes. But then all of that is meaningless without the insights behind them. And the insights come from interpreting what those numbers actually mean to the people that are being impacted, to the environment that is being impacted, to the context. So I really think the key is to bring the quantitative data and the qualitative human voice stories and combine them together so that we have the dashboards that show the metrics, we have the interpretation, and then we also have the stories that are showing the meaning. Together, they can show what is happening, how it feels, and then why it matters in the bigger picture. And that is a piece, like we think data is all about the numbers, and so we have to remove the feeling from it. But that's not how society works. That's not how people are designed.
Yeah, no, great, and I love the fact that this human stories behind the numbers are actually what matters. Numbers are just here to reflect the human stories that human beautiful stories we're creating through the conscious business growth model, and how we can impact entire communities around the world if we are to take care a little bit more about our stakeholder environment and change, just to tweak a little bit the way we think about how business should be done and what it takes to bring circularity within a supply chain or within a business model that is obviously sometimes running very well. So when business models are running very well, so well, my business is running very well, why would I tweak it? Because it, of course, it demands courage, it demands patience, it demands resilience, and it demands a higher level of consciousness. And it all comes down to the leadership of companies as well. If you as a person are not a conscious person with the strong values of authenticity and integrity, and also of co-value creation within your business environment, it's very difficult to implement that at your business level, let alone at the executive level, but also to disseminate that all around the company, which is what we advise companies to do in their conscious business growth journeys. Like, you have also to measure the matrix of the impact that you have, not only externally, but also internally. Because if your employees from top to bottom are not on board, then your purpose cannot be pushed through fairly. And here we need to really create a cohesion where the human is at the center, where the planet is at the center of everything you do and then we do, while still making a lot of profit. And here we create beautiful stories that we also want to tell the world about, because it's, we've seen a lot of companies doing a lot of great stuff. And I just had, a meeting with a company in Jamaica that is in waste management, and they're doing all these beautiful things around, communities that are in need. And my first question was like, so how do you promote this? I was like, well, we're not promoting it. I'm like, why? I said, well, because we don't think about it. I said, this is great stories to tell, because these are beautiful stories to tell the public, because it can not only influence other people and motivate other people to do so, but also it can attract a lot more partners, investors, clients that see all the beautiful things that are you're doing, and they will also want to be part of it, because we as human are inherently good people, and a lot of people want to do good, they just don't know how to. Stories, putting together the human stories behind the numbers is really important part of the journey as well. Impact measurement seems like, when you talk about impact measurement, it might seem like an easy path to say, oh, okay, we just create matrix, then we have our goals, when we have a dashboard, and then we follow through. But in fact, it's not. It's a very complicated process that needs really constant reevaluation. And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has pitfalls. So what are these common pitfalls that you've seen companies make when reporting their impact, actually?
Yeah, good question. What you touched on earlier is important, saying, we take the easiest path. So, a company will say, okay, I want to measure impact, and they will pick the easiest data to measure. A good example is fitness, just because it's so commonplace for everybody. When I first started my health journey, I wanted to be healthier, I wanted to be fit, so I was exercising every day, workout, checking the scale. That's the easiest thing, right? You measure your weight.
We've all been there,
right? And if I'm just looking at the scale, the numbers aren't moving, or they're getting less, and okay, I'm getting fitter. But then I woke up one day and I couldn't get out of bed, and I had complete burnout. So I was measuring only one data point, one kind of data. I wasn't measuring how much sleep I was getting. I wasn't measuring my actual well-being, how I felt. Was I feeling better? Was I pushing myself too hard? Was I eating well? Was I spending time with friends? Like, we can get very one-track minded on what we're trying to achieve. And then, related to your previous question of the human story, that was missing. I was so focused on that one number on the scale and just work, that I forgot to take in the bigger picture of my life. What does it mean to me? Am I enjoying it? Am I sleeping enough? Am I taking care of the other elements of my well-being? So, to go back to your question, I think some of the biggest mistakes companies make is they look at a very limited amount of data without understanding the bigger picture. They look at the wrong data. They try to collect all the data they can, and then they don't understand how to filter that. They just become overwhelmed by the amount of data. They don't filter it to what's meaningful. Or they just confuse activity with impact, and then they collect the wrong kind of data. right? So if a company is focused on planting trees, they're going to highlight the number of trees that they planted. That's great output. We've planted 100,000 trees, but then we don't measure how many of them actually survive or how that improves a local ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. You need to go. You need to go beyond the simple action and always trying to go, I would say, one level deeper, right? And when we became conscious business growth advisors certified during the certification, and a big shout out here to our friend and mentor and strategic advisor Thomas Heckschmidt, who has been of precious support and in his knowledge and that he has taught us. He was pushing us all the time, especially in the stakeholder mapping, is take a situation and analyze the stakeholders. And at the beginning of the journey, you would say like 4 or 5. And then as our conscious level grew, we were able to identify 15, 20, because he pushed us to go one level deeper. And it's exactly like in terms of impact. The goal is really say, how far can you go into the impact that you have? Of course, within your goal setting system, you cannot have a similar impact or huge impact on everything. And usually, as you go down the ladder, the impact becomes less and less. But nevertheless, even the slightest impact can change a life. It can change an environmental issue. And here it's very important to really get your team on board and as a company, and sit down with all your executive and brainstorm and say, okay, where can we go? How deep can the rabbit hole go? And here really go in depth. And of course, with the help of advisors like ourselves, this is what we help you to do, is really to think outside the box and really go deep inside. Where can we go? How deep can we go? And how many layers can we actually impact if we look at the bigger picture?
You highlight a really important point here, JC, and that's the fact that we all have blind spots, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you can sit there and you can brainstorm, but like you said, without your coach and mentor who like challenged you to look deeper and deeper, you wouldn't have been able to go beyond that limit. And we all have our own limits. Working as an executive coach, what I do is I challenge leaders to go beyond their blind spots. And that doesn't mean I'm great. I have my own coach as well, because I need to be challenged to go beyond my blind spots. We don't know what we don't know. And unless we're constantly asking the question, what am I missing? What don't I know? How can I get more information about my blind spots? We cannot surpass ourselves. So that's another important point, is that we always need consultants and advisors to challenge us beyond where we're going, unless we just want to say, okay, this is my story, I'm successful, and I'm done.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a saying, like, even the masters never stop learning. So it's a constant learning process in the conscious business growth journey and also in life. And I think that that's the beauty of being on this conscious awareness path, is that every day brings something new, whether in your personal life, whether in your personal development or in the development of your business. Because being conscious business growth advisors also mean raising your level of consciousness as a human being, your level of awareness, your level of understanding of really what it takes to upgrade the world towards what it's meant to be, and to create more equity, more equality, and more stability, more integrity, and more fairness in everything that we do in life, within either it is through your personal life or in your business life. And when you combine both and really embed these values as a human being, then it becomes, of course, easier to disseminate that through your business and through your organization. And it's a never-ending learning journey, which is this is what makes life interesting.
Yeah.
40 minutes in, and I think this conversation is great, and I think we're bringing a lot of different ideas and facts that are very useful for our viewers. Again, we apologize for the technical issue that we had with LinkedIn. It's independent of us. It's a LinkedIn issue, so we hope that you'll catch the replay on that. The last part of this podcast would like to focus on three main things. First one is leadership. The other one is trust. And finally, future. So transparency is key when it comes to running a business, and especially when it comes to impact measurement and how does this translate from measurement to being transparent to your investors, client, and employees. So what does it take to have a transparent impact measurement process to really build trust with investors, clients, and employees that are very keen to be part of this journey and want to understand more how they can contribute to this impact and conscious business growth journey?
Yeah, that's an important question. I think, like I mentioned earlier, people are tired of empty promises. After scandals like Enron and so on, the transparency, I think, has become non-negotiable. People are tired of seeing promises and big numbers in fancy brochures and then not having any accountability or evidence behind it. So transparent impact measurement, I think it turns the values into evidence. It makes it concrete. And then when organizations are sharing the good and the bad as well, when they're constantly showing the good intentions, that creates integrity. I think in coaching, we talk a lot about oh my God, I'm forgetting the word. Congruence. We say that our values have to match our words, have to match our actions. And it's the exact same thing with organizations. When we say this is what matters to us, we are looking to be conscious businesses, to create a positive impact, to be sustainable, whatever promises we're making, we have to align those promises with actions and with evidence. So impact measurement helps to build trust by creating that by proving integrity. You mentioned Patagonia earlier, and I know that Patagonia has really been focusing on that transparency piece. And what most of their customers really appreciate about them is not just that they're working towards a positive impact and that they're doing good, but they also share a lot of the shortcomings. They share what they are not doing well enough, where they are still have work to do, and that creates a fiercely loyal customer base. And so transparency isn't just about ethics and integrity. That's the first piece, but then it becomes strategic, because with a fiercely loyal customer base, with fiercely loyal suppliers and stakeholders, now you have, as you said earlier, much faster growth and more sustainable growth. You don't have to keep worrying about, are we going to create the same value? Are we going to have the same profit next year? You have this stability because it's based on something solid.
Great. And I think you touched on a very good point. Thank you for mentioning that is the loyalty and deep integration within your business ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And this is why, how we design and implement our conscious business growth journey with our customers is that at the end, it's of course to have the impact, but it's also to create more sustainable bonds and interaction between your organization internally with your employees, but also externally with your suppliers, with your customers, and with the communities and with the environment. And here, of course, one can say, yeah, but it takes a little bit more time and it takes a little bit more effort. Yeah, but you don't build a business for a couple of years. We like to work with founders that really want to leave a legacy behind, that have a very long-term perspective, and that really see their business as a force to not only create wealth internally and externally, but also to make a difference in the world. And when you have this kind of mindset as a leader, it makes sense to spend more time and energy, and also a little bit more investment in financial investment to create this sustainability and this loyalty, because through what we created at Symbiosis Infinity Group, the Symbiosis Infinity Loop, it is obvious that it will return to you. And once you implement one project, well, guess what? It's easy to duplicate that to other industries, to other of your segments, to other of your stakeholders. and create this infinite sustainability and a kind of input output that just that is just being sustained by itself. So it's a very important factor, and loyalty should be at the center of human values, and not only as a person but also as a leader. That brings me to my almost last question. Leaders and mindsets. There is a lot of coaching out there, a lot of mindset coaching, and a lot of personal development and mindset. We hear a lot about that, but shifting a mindset is not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes science, and it also takes a lot of knowledge. So, according to you, what is the mindset shift that leaders need to embrace really in order to integrate impact into their core strategy, rather than what we talked about, before, being in the ESG tick box and say, okay, tick, this is our strategy, tick, we've done that, and we use it as a marketing tool.
Yeah, I blame business school for that.
Among all other organizations, yeah.
I would say the biggest mindset, like leaders have historically been very myopic, right? They're only focusing on the balance sheet. And that creates a very limited perspective. The biggest mindset shift, I would say, is to look at impact measurement or impact creation not as a nice to have, as an additional bonus, but as intelligence. It's a smart thing to do. And if anyone takes the time to go and look at organizations that have shifted this mindset that impact is intelligent, you'll see that they've made impact part of their core strategy. And you think of the curve, everybody jumps on the curve because we're hearing about CSR and ESG and everything. And they're like, me too, I'm going to do ESG, I'm going to do CSR. But if that's how you're thinking, it's already too late because you're on the lagging edge. The leaders that are leading the effort, if you think of Unilever, for example, they have a sustainable living plan where they've tied social and environmental goals to business growth. They are ahead of the curve. They've really made impact part of their core strategy, and that has led to much more sustainable growth for them. They've reduced all kinds of packaging, they've reduced costs, they've optimized their supply chain. So they are leading the movement because they've taken it seriously. They're not, just trying to do what everybody else is doing. So I think thinking of it as intelligent and then taking the lead on it, saying, okay, how are we going to do this so that it's right for us rather than doing it like everybody else? Those are the things I would say to truly shift the mindset.
Yeah, create your own path, as we say, right? There's not one size fits all. And of course, there's some key matrix and some key, I would say, pathways that everybody tends to take. But every organization is different. Every leadership is different. Every situation is different. So it's very important to bring out a lot of creativity within this impact measurement. And as we said before, to really think outside the box and really to be able to go as deep as possible, and always keeping in mind that everything should be combined with profit, purpose, and a positive impact on people and planet. So yeah, that's great. Raul, how is your connection? Maybe you can do the last question. Is your network
really
good
good
now?
I don't know if you are back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you. Yeah. So
Can you
are
hear
you okay
me?
to do the last question?
Okay. Go ahead. I think that my connection is not
Okay,
doing well with me.
okay.
I don't know if
Okay,
she's
okay.
hearing all what I'm saying. That will be
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, but there's a lot of background noise. So, okay, I will do the last question, and we'll have to stop. We're already 50 minutes in, so that's great. The world is changing fast, and industries and especially technology, and a lot of people are talking about AI has a really powerful tool to enhance, I would say, the current technological landscape, but also enhance, I would say, human experience within the workplace, right? Well, we see there is a lot of pros and cons because we see a lot of also people being replaced by robots because of the enhancement of AI. Well, AI also provides us with a lot of very useful tool in order to be able to take some ideas and some concepts to the next level. And here we really need to find a way to balance both. So if we look at the next 5 years, 5 years down the road, how do you see the impact measurement evolving? And what do you think will be the role of artificial intelligence within this process?
Hmm. I think impact measurement is moving from retrospective to more real time. And that's kind of the big value that AI is creating at the moment. It's helping to integrate data across all kinds of different systems. We're able to bring in financial data, cultural data, environmental data into these living dashboards where we can see how decisions ripple through an organization and an ecosystem in real time rather than retrospectively. And I'm really appreciating that there are so many new global standards that are coming into place in the impact measurement space, in the reporting space. I think that's going to push companies more towards consistency, especially in data measurement and data reporting. And another really big value of AI is that it helps to find patterns and predict impact much more quickly, right? Like you have the real-time integration of data, you have the real-time highlighting of patterns that humans might not be able to see. The value of humans is still very much interpreting the insights in a human way. What does it mean to the stakeholders? What does it mean to the human ecosystem that is being impacted? Because AI has no feelings, no emotions, no way to really think about empathy in that way. So I think the future is really better insights, where technology is helping leaders to be more clear on how to align the people, the purpose, the performance together. But then we still have our value in setting the direction, having that purpose, mobilizing the people, telling the stories, sharing the impact, and really bringing the humanity together in a purposeful way. And AI is just a tool,
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think this is a great final message where, AI is here to stay. So we need to embrace it, but we need to bring, we really need to be able to balance that with the human factor without keeping in mind that human and planet should be at the center of everything we do, with tools at our disposal that are becoming incrementally more and more powerful and can take us to can take some of our initiatives and projects to the next level. So thank you for mentioning that. I think we're coming to the end, and it's been a very great conversation around impact, and we would like to thank everyone who's watching the replay. Unfortunately, we had some technical issue with LinkedIn, and it will be on our LinkedIn feed as replay. So the key takeaways of this, if you had like 2 or 3 takeaways, Kat, to sum this discussion up and to really, I would say, raise awareness around why it's so important for organization and leaders that really want to create an impact to implement impact measurement from the start of their operations and in the core of their strategy.
Yeah, I would say one, start by redefining success as much more than just performance. Number 2 would be think about impact creation and measurement as part of the organizational strategy, not a nice to have, a must have for sustainable growth. And then number 3, I would say start with being clear on purpose, and then aligning the purpose, the people that are being impacted, and the outcome that we want to create.
Great. I think these are great takeaways, and you touch base on purpose. When Raul and I became certified as conscious business growth advisors, the first thing that we were taught is it all starts with purpose.
Yeah.
And we also had, and I know you're also part of, of the Shiftco journey, which is, great organization. Please check them out. Shiftco, helping conscious entrepreneurs to turn the vision of their business to a model that is not only profitable but also sustainable. And within this journey, the first thing that we also learn is how to extract your purpose, how to go deep inside and at the level of your soul to really understand your purpose and be able to turn this inner calling from our soul to our heart to a business model vision that is not only has an impact on people and planet, but that also generate profit. So here, a big shout out to Shiftco, Terry Maxwell, and all the wonderful people that work at Shiftco and do an amazing job. If you're a conscious entrepreneur, and if you think about being a conscious entrepreneur and you don't know where to start, please contact us or contact Terry Maxwell. We'll be happy to connect you with her and the wonderful Shiftco community. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Raul. I know so today was a day of technical difficulties, but it happens. We really enjoyed the conversation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this exciting, this interesting conversation. I know if I'm speaking, it's come later to you, but thank you very much for your conversation. It was really interesting, and I will hear that again because I missed some important part of this discussion. Thank you very much, Kat, and see you soon.
Thanks so much, Raul.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Don't miss out the replay. Leave your comments, leave your LinkedIn, your email if you want to connect. Symbiosis Infinity Group, Synapse Analytics. It will be a pleasure for us to connect and discuss things further. In 2 weeks, the next episode 6, we're going to talk about sustainable technology and sustainable AI with no other than Kamales Lardi, who is a world-renowned expert in sustainability in technology, which is something that will explode in the next few years because sustainability and high tech is not yet associated together, but it will become. So don't miss out the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Stay
everyone.
blessed and enjoy your day.
Thanks, JC. Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.